let's talk about these books.
1, 2, 3, let's switch this up.
Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today I am starting this vlog off because I am on my way to the library to go pick up the first book that I'm going to be reading in this vlog, and that is The Hunger by Alma Katsu, I think is how you pronounce the name. I was challenged probably back in like January or February by Kenny Wrights. I will link her channel down below, but she challenged me a couple months ago to read some horror books, 2 in particular. So the first one is The Hunger, and that is what I'm on my way to go pick up. I already checked online. I know they have it in stock, or like on the shelf, so I'm going to head over there now to go pick it up before somebody else scoops it up because they only have 1 copy. Hi, future me here. I don't think I gave a synopsis of what this book is, so if you have never heard of this book, then you don't even know like what this is that I'm getting into. I'm gonna try to quickly read the synopsis just so that you have an idea of what I'm about to read in these next few clips. Whether it's a curse or just bad luck, the 90 men, women, and children of the Donner Party are at the brink of one of the deadliest and most disastrous Western adventures in American history. While the ill-fated group struggles to survive in the treacherous mountain conditions, evil begins to grow around them and within them. As members of the party begin to disappear, they must ask themselves, what if there's something waiting in the mountains, something disturbing, diseased, and very hungry?
Just another reaction.
So I haven't updated this in a while, but you guys saw that I did go to the library. I got the book, and they also had the cover that I was talking about. If you watched my April TBR video, the reason why I'm reading this book, outside of the fact that Kenny challenged me to read it, was that this is also going to fulfill my, I think it's the Psionics and Divination prompt, which is a book with clouds on the cover. I am about 100 pages in. It is not my cup of tea, like in terms of like what I normally would read, but also it's like weirdly, like I'm like weirdly invested and like interested in this story. So I'm gonna keep going. For some reason I can't stop reading. Like I'm just so interested to know what's gonna happen to these people. I read probably about 25% of the book on my way up to Philly, and so when I go back I'm gonna try to read some more. So we'll see how far I get. Back. I am now on chapter 14, and I am sprinting with Brittany for Brittany Loves Reading, and we're gonna see how much reading I can get done during this sprint. But yeah, that's the update. So far they're still in the woods or on the trail trying to figure out, like the guy who was supposed to be guiding them basically disappeared, left them a note saying like turn around, go back, and then they found him with another group. And they were like, yeah, we found your note, like you gotta help us. And he was just like, yeah, no, I left you that note for a reason. You need to turn around. There is something in the woods or on the trail or whatever that is like killing people and animals and like just ripping them to shreds and just leaving the bones. And he's like, this isn't an animal I've ever seen before. Like, this is crazy. Like, if you value your lives, you need to turn around and go back where you came from or go a different way. So that's where I'm at now. I believe that this is partially or loosely based on a real story about like the Donner Party, which I had never heard of and don't know anything about. I'm glad that I'm actually enjoying it. We'll see how it ends.
Just another reaction.
But today's Saturday, and I finished The Hunger last night, and I gave it 3.75 stars. I did not expect to like this book. I liked it more than I thought I would. Just based on the synopsis, I did not expect to like it. No offense, Kenny. But I was very invested in the story and in the characters. The story also took a lot of time and focus on the characters, so you really got to know a lot of these characters and like their backgrounds and like, you know, what kind of things happened to them that led up to them being on this you know, adventure in the first place, why they were going, you know, to California. And that stuff was like, oh, some of those stories were a lot. Like, that's what was interesting, like getting to know the characters and their dynamics with each other and their backstories. That to me was extremely entertaining and interesting. That's what kept me wanting to read. I literally couldn't care less what was in the woods, what was following them, and what was attacking them. I didn't even care about that. I wanted to know the tea about these people. There's a lot of characters, I will say that. There are a lot of characters to keep up with, and they're all kind of like related in different ways. You know, it's like, oh, like this is his wife and this is her daughter and this is her brother-in-law and this is his stepson. Like, it is kind of a lot in terms of the characters to keep straight, like who everybody is and what their relationship to each other is. That can get a little confusing. If I were to have just read this, I don't know if I would have liked it. It's possible that I may have even DNF'd it, but having the audiobook definitely helped. The most horror that you get is probably mostly towards the end, like in the last, let's say 20% of the book, is when you see more of like the attacks and stuff like that. But leading up to that, you don't really see a whole lot of action. What you're seeing is like the remains. They'll find like, you know, skeletons or mutilated bodies, and, you know, they'll describe the bodies and stuff like that, but you don't actually see much of anything happening to anyone. So if you're going into this with the expectation that this is going to be a horror, that this is going to be scary, like don't go into that with that mindset, because you will be disappointed. I will say that the ending fell a little flat for me. I feel like the ending could have been a little more like amped up. It just seemed like we were like on this like slow burn, you know, up, and then we got to like the ending and it just kind of was like beep, like it just kind of was like very like plateau. It was like, all right, like I thought we were gonna go out with a bang and we just kind of didn't. It's fine, because like the rest of the story, like I said, was interesting to me, so I don't care that the ending wasn't like a super like 1-2, like it's fine. I think that if the ending had been better, I probably would have given it like a 4 or maybe even more than a 4-star. But with the ending falling a little flat, that's why I gave it a 3.75. I would definitely recommend this, especially if you are someone that enjoys stuff like The Walking Dead or The Happening, or even like I Am Legend. If you like stuff like that, then you probably would enjoy this book. So the next book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. I don't know if I said that right. This is also going towards my magical readathon prompt. So the synopsis for this book says, his wife has left him, his father is sinking into dementia, and Marcos tries not to think too hard about how he makes a living. First, it was reported that an infectious virus has made all animal meat poisonous to humans. Then governments initiated the transition. Now eating human meat is legal. Then one day he's given a gift, a live specimen of the finest quality. Little by little he starts to treat her like a human being, and soon he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. So yeah, this synopsis doesn't sound interesting to me either, not gonna lie. But who knows, like this one might pop out and surprise me just like The Hunger did. So this is the cover. And I recently was gifted an Amazon, you know, a Kindle Fire. Apparently my mother had multiple, and I don't know why she has any in the first place, because she doesn't read. I now have one of hers, and so I'm going to be reading this on my new Kindle. I've never had a Kindle, so I don't really know how to work this. I'm still trying to figure it out. So it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm sure it'll be fine. It took me a while to figure out how to turn down the brightness on here. So yeah, I'm gonna jump into this, and hopefully this goes as well as The Hunger did. To change the lighting a little bit to try to, like, I don't know, create like a more spooky-ish vibe or whatever reading this book. I think the idea of this book so far, like the concept, is really interesting. The concept is that it's a government conspiracy thing, and the government has poisoned all the animals, and now the animals are not edible. And so in order for, you know, people who do eat meat, in order for them to eat meat, the only meat that they can eat is humans. And so humans, they're being bred and raised as like livestock, and then they're being killed essentially so that they can be eaten. These are humans that are basically specifically bred for this reason, kind of like slavery. They're being specifically bred for this reason. Not saying that makes it better, I just want to clarify that they're not just like randomly scooping people up off the street and just eating them. It's interesting that it's like this government conspiracy, that like the government is behind this, and like they did this on purpose for population control. Like all of that is very interesting. I'm waiting to see where this story goes with that, if it's gonna kind of explore that more. The main character works at a meat processing plant. You have to obviously have a certain stomach for this kind of work, and also mindset for this kind of work, because you were essentially killing people and ripping them apart and packaging their meat so that it could be eaten. So they have to make sure that the people that they hire are prepared and understand what it is they're getting themselves into. I also thought it was really interesting that they don't have real funerals anymore. Basically when they have funerals, their funerals are like basically just for show. So they'll do the whole shebang and they'll, you know, lower the coffin into the ground, and then like once it's over and everybody leaves, they pull it back out the ground, and I think they then cremate the bodies. And I'm not entirely clear on it, because I don't know if they're doing these fake funerals because people don't have the money for a real funeral, or if that's what is happening across the board to everyone, because maybe they're afraid that if they bury their loved one that someone is going to come dig up this body and eat it. I don't really know. I'm not really clear on like why they do that. There's not really a whole lot happening in the story. I don't really know what the plot is. I don't really know where the story is going. We're kind of just following the main character as he like goes through his day, like day-to-day activities. It's kind of like the YouTube videos like A Day in My Life. It's kind of like that, where we're just kind of like following him, and like he goes into town and he, you know, goes here, and then he goes to work, and then he goes to visit his dad, and it's just kind of like us just following him. So far kind of a slow start, not really much happening.
Just another reaction.
I started watching Yellow Jackets after reading The Hunger, and that show, that's all I have to say. Please comment down below if you've watched Yellow Jackets because I need someone to talk to about this show, because it's literally insane. So I am now 60-something% into Tender as the Flesh, and so far I have to say that I'm not liking it. Not a fan. I'm bored and I don't care. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say besides that. Like, that's the update. Honestly, if I wasn't reading this for a prompt for the Magical Readathon, I probably would DNF this book, which is saying a lot because I have never DNF'd a book. Like, since I've started reading a year ago, well, not even a full year ago, but however many months it's been. But this one, ooh, this one I want to DNF so bad. But I'm trying to hold myself accountable. I'm trying to play by the rules. I know that nobody's keeping track but me. Like, I know that nobody cares. This book, the way it's written, and maybe it has something to do with the narrator, but it's like it's like they're talking to you and they're telling you a story and this is what happened. It's not like flowing. It feels like somebody's talking at me instead of talking to me. And the narrator is like very like monotone. They walk you through like the different steps in the factory, which I thought would be more like, I don't know. I was bored. Maybe that sounds bad. Maybe that says more about me than it does about the book. But I was bored reading about the process that the body goes through as they mutilate it and process it to be shipped out for people to eat. Maybe I'm just really heartless, like maybe it's me, but I literally could not care less about this man talking about how he misses the animals. Like, I don't care. If you are affected by content that has to do with either infertility or even like the loss of a child, miscarriage, things like that, I would not recommend this book for you at all. I will say the last chapter that I just read was kind of interesting because he has in his possession now one of the people that's supposed to be used for like eating, and he's basically like taken a liking to her. And I don't really know where this is gonna go, but also there's a part of me that really doesn't care. I think this story would be much more interesting if the main character spent his time like trying to expose the government and like, you know, reveal the conspiracy or whatever. Like that would have been more interesting than him walking around going to work and doing, he don't even be doing nothing half the time. Like he don't do nothing. So I'm gonna finish reading. We'll see how far I get before I fall asleep. So I finished Tender is the Flesh last night, and I have to say, wildly disappointed. Don't understand what the hype is around this book. This is a book that I remember like when I first started reading, like last summer or fall. This book was really popular. Like I kept seeing it at like different bookstores and, you know, on Book Talk and stuff like that. Super popular book. And the cover also was like very intriguing, and like every time I would see it I would want to get it, even though I didn't even know what it was about. I would want to get it just because it was a cover that looked intriguing, that I also kept seeing everywhere. Like one of the things that I took away from this experience is that when I read The Hunger I was expecting to not like. Just based off of the synopsis, didn't sound like something that I would care about at all. But I think a combination of, you know, the story being relatively interesting, but also the narrator doing such a great job in the audiobook, I was very invested in these characters, very invested in the story. I feel the exact opposite about Tender is the Flesh. With Tender is the Flesh, I feel like maybe it was the narrator's fault that I didn't enjoy it. Maybe it's not the narrator, maybe it's the author and the writing style that I just couldn't get into. But it felt like the narrator was like talking at you, like almost like they're giving you directions. Like there wasn't really anything to the narration of this story, and it all just felt like very like choppy, very like I said, like somebody was giving you directions, like first you do this, then you do this, then this happened, then this happened, then he lights a cigarette, and then he walks in the door, and then he sees the girl, and it's like, I don't know, it just felt really boring. And the characters had no personality. I didn't connect with them, and I really didn't care about anything that happened to any of them, not even the main character. The book is written in third person, so maybe that has something to do with it. Although I've read plenty of third person books, you know, books written in third person, and that has never really bothered me before. This book reminded me of like a Sundance film. And this isn't to like throw shade at like Sundance films, but to me, Sundance films tend to be like very, or even any kind of like film festival type of film, they tend to be like artsy and like very like abstract, or like you have to really dissect it to understand like the meaning and like all of that. And I don't like films like that. I remember in high school when we would read like different books, you were supposed to like be able to point out the symbolism and the themes and the motifs and all of that stuff. Like that's what this book feels like. I think the author should write multiple books in this same universe. Like this book could just be from the perspective of the guy who works in the meat processing plant, right? But the author could write more stories from other people's perspectives. Like one could be from the perspective of somebody who works for the government, or one story could be from the perspective of, I don't know, a teacher who has to teach these kids that this is normal, knowing that this is not normal. Like a kid like growing up in this, where this is all they know and this is completely normal to them. Like just from the perspective of different people, maybe that would make the story more interesting. I'm not going to tell you not to pick it up. I'm not going to tell you to not support the author, because this is a BIPOC author and I don't want to give people a reason to not read BIPOC authors. But what I can say is that this book was absolutely not for me. However, on the bright side, what I will say is that The Hunger completely surprised me. I was not expecting to enjoy that book as much as I did. That book, I think I gave it like 3.75 stars, which for a book that I went into expecting to not like it, that's a really high rating. It's going to be a very memorable book. Thank you, Kenny, for even exposing me to these, even though like one was a little bit of a flop. The other one was definitely a bop, and I'm very happy. I have now officially read 2 horror books, which I think was on my goals for 2023. So I have now officially checked that off, and hopefully I do read more horror later in the year, but worst case scenario, even if I don't, I've accomplished my goal for the year, so I'm really happy about that. And with that being said, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, let me know down below in the comments if you've read either of these books and what your thoughts are on them, if you liked them, what you rated them. Especially if you liked Tender as a Flesh, please let me know down below what you liked about it. There may have been things that I missed or overlooked or didn't catch on to. As always, my social links will be down below in the description box, along with my link and discount code for 20% off your Javi coffee order. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you are not already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! They banished one guy, and one girl could talk to dead people, and the other lady they thought was a witch, and it was just a lot.